4. It's this will be sprint 4, and in here we'll do this will be S4 T3. Okay, so while that is being done, execute. Okay, well, this is being done again. What do we have to learn today? I hope you guys watched pre-class. TypeScript. TypeScript. Okay, why does it sounds like JavaScript? Is it related to JavaScript, or are we starting to learn a new language? Is it related to JavaScript? Okay. Okay, how is it related? Again, those who have watched pre-class, how is it related? So you have JS, and then you have TS, which is basically your TypeScript, right? A very unusual choice of name, no? Type. Only data types we have to mention TS. Okay. Okay. So do you guys remember like we were basically initially when we were learning about it, we divided languages in two formats, right? Statically typed and what was the second one? One was statically typed. Second one was loosely or dynamically. Loosely or dynamically typed. Right? JS falls in which category? Static or dynamic? Dynamic. The reason being, reason क्या था? Why did we placed it in dynamic typing? Loosely dynamic, whichever. Why did we placed it there? The reason. Variable reassign and redeclare. Okay. Okay. It converts at runtime. Very good. It maybe we can say it. Chalo. Runtime pe it does type checking. We can say that, right? Achha, chalo. Let's keep your word. Converts works. Okay. Flexible coding. All right. Anything else? High level language. I mean, most programming language can be called high level language. Even today, आज आप C को भी high level बोल सकते हो. So that's not a very specific thing. But yeah, variable reassign, and redeclare. Yeah, that works. Right. Anything else? Anything else? The reason for JavaScript being dynamically typed. It's good in production to get error during runtime, so make it okay. ठीक है. Spoiler alert. But anything else? Is it very easy to use actually? JavaScript. Anyone here has any experience with any of these? C or Java? C ke any variant, C plus, C hash, whatever. No. So again, let's say I'll create a test file over here, or see, I have a test or this. All right. Let's say if I go over here and if I write index.js, like again, if we are coding in a statically typed language like C or Java, if we have to define a variable, right? Where's the list? Here's the list. If we have to define a variable, what you'll have to do, you'll have to first define what is the data type of that specific variable, right? So in JavaScript, if we define, let's say age as 24, right? We can define this way in JS. This works, right? But have we like statically given it implicitly, explicitly given it ki what is the data type that this variable gonna hold? No. So very easily I can replace it with a string very easily, right? So what happens in statically typed language? We have to define, right? You'll say ki int age equals to 25, right? Once you've defined something like this, after that, if you go and try doing like this, something like this, it will throw an error, right? Because compile time पे ये काम कर रहा है, right? It works at compile time and it says कि data types don't match, right? So the data type are defined as soon as the variable is declared with a value, and if you try to reassign it some other value, it won't take it. It will say that this is wrong way of approaching it, right? So any advantage of this thing over this, over JavaScript? Let's say most statically typed language go with this. So any advantage of this over this? Anything? Like, can you think of any advantage except for like bottlenecking ourselves? What advantage is it? And by doing this, now we won't be able to use this variable for anything else. So is it a good practice or bad practice? Easy to learn. ठीक है, ठीक है. All right. So again, guys, let me tell you, TypeScript is majorly used just for development reason. राइट सिर्फ डेवलपमेंट रीजन के लिए यूज होता है. देयर इज नो प्रोडक्शन पे कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है टाइपस्क्रिप्ट का, राइट? देयर इज नॉट मेजर benefit of TS on production. That means if you're using it in development environment, there should be some help that developers might be getting with respect to this. Developer को कुछ help मिल रहा होगा, right? Again, in case you start entering into development for a single project, let's say we are talking about Masai LMS, you'll have like hundreds of folder. In each folder, you will have hundred of like variables defined, hundreds of functions defined, hundreds of objects defined, right? Hundreds of method defined. So in that case, if you're given that big of a code base and there is some export written over here, right? और आपने उसको import किया, right? You're importing this variable, let's say age, from wherever, right? A location, let's say. And यहाँ पे what you did, you assigned this age a variable of or value of 24, right? Now you won't exactly be assigning this, right? This will be taken from input, right? And let's say कि you as a developer left this input as it is. You didn't mention कि type is gonna be number, right? आपने as it is रख दिया, तो this input is gonna give you value in string. String में value मिलेगी, right? And that value आपने क्या किया? You went and you assigned it over here, right? You said कि input में जो भी value है वो assign कर दो. But in case this age that was imported in that folder or file, if it was defined as a number, right? And later on कहीं पे there is a function which is expecting it to be number, right? वो उसका number expect कर रहा है and उसने क्या किया वहां पे? उसने किया a plus b, right? A plus b. This a is supposed to be number, but let's say age, right? And this can be what can we do with age with respect to addition? Votes maybe ऐसे I'm just lowballing it. Votes, let's say, right? We did something like this. Now this votes is gonna be a number, right? Let's assume that this votes was supposed to be a number, and हमें क्या मिलना चाहिए था? हमें मिलना चाहिए था कि if there are 4 votes and like the age is 24, so I should be getting 28. This is what our display should be expecting, right? And फिर ये value जाके हमने display पे दिखा दी. Yes, but in line number 3, what have you done? अच्छा चलो इसको भी skip करो. In line number 16, you have taken the input as string. So now age has data type of string, right? And unknowingly, if the function is running, वो क्या करेगा? It has like a string and a number over here. number plus string. So JS is gonna do its magic of type version, right? And in display, are we gonna show 28 or are we gonna show 4 2 4? Right? Right? So in this case, is it supposed to be like this? Things are breaking. And now you are worried कि out of those 100 files error कहाँ पे आ रहा है, because even Chrome का dev tool sometimes make mistakes, right? वो क्या करता है, it gives you a vague reference कि इधर error आ रहा है, but you can't even find कि उधर error क्या आ रहा है. Sometimes what happens, that file doesn't even have that variable. Export issues होते हैं, right? तो again that can create an issue, right? But let's say कि if it was, let's assume कि JavaScript was statically typed, and यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, once you define the age in this format, right? Now you have taken all this, right? As soon as you have taken it as a string, what if this age shows you a red line and it tells you कि there's some error? आपने उस पर hover किया and you get an idea कि yes, age is supposed to be a number. So what you did, you went and you put the type as number. Right? So in case you will be getting a proper display, no errors like this will happen. Right? So this makes sense कि why would we need a statically typed environment over here? Yes, makes sense. Makes sense. The reason for TypeScript to be created. Right? So this static typing is provided by your TS or TypeScript. Right? Again, it's a superset. Yeah, subset, yeah, superset. I think it's called superset only. It's exactly similar to JS. So if you know about JS, you can do TS, but there are like some syntax differences. So today's session mostly we'll just see what syntax is we use in TypeScript. Clear? Clear? So आज का agenda clear हो गया, what we have to do now. First thing first, let's deal with very first thing. Let me clear it, and we're in TS folder, right? TS folder. So यहाँ पे let's do TS. ठीक है. So now first thing first, again TypeScript is gonna be a development based like program. So this will be used in development server only. If you go and check browser out, so it won't be running TS, right? If a TS code, TypeScript code is sent in browser, वो क्या करेगा? It's gonna convert that code. It's gonna transpile that code into JS and then उसको run करेगा, right? So again, browser will only accept JS only. It won't accept or even expect TypeScript. So TypeScript is strictly for your development purposes only, so that you don't get an, right? Or at least, I mean, of course, you will get an error. At least prevent that error, जो कि आ सकता है, right? So that makes sense. That makes sense. So I hope with respect to that, it also makes sense that you can't go and write TypeScript in JS file then. Yes, because let's say we have a index.html over here, right? And if I go and write a script tag यहाँ पे, so in this src, should I put a TS file or JS file? Because again, browser will only accept JS. Right, JS file, right? So now let's figure that out, how that transpilation and all works. So let's say we go and create a app.ts file. Right? Now first, let's see how we can start with defining variables over here. Then we'll talk about that transpiling a bit more. Right? So normal JS mein, if you define message like this and chalo, message, let's say we are saying hello world. So any errors over here in TS file? No errors so far. Then let's say we go and do a message equals to hello world second time. No errors so far. If we do message equals to 12. Any errors? Yes. So let's hover over it. It says type number is not assignable to type string. Right? So currently message may you have defined a certain string. So by default it took ki yes, this variable is created only to start holding a string over it. Clear? Clear? So now if I do a console.log of this message, what should I be getting? Ideally, think in terms of JavaScript, because again, guys, again telling you TypeScript is gonna transpile into JS. Hello world 2. Okay. Okay. So if I go over here, right, I can't directly attach app.ts. So first let's do one thing. Let's try to run it over here, right? I hope you guys have watched pre-class. If those who haven't, you might have seen the installation with respect to TypeScript, right? So I would really recommend you first to check if you have TS running in your system. Just do tsc-v whenever you want to check a version, right? So I have a TSC. Can you guys quickly check in your system quickly? Works? Getting something or not? Chabi, you guys are opening. Error. Okay, what about others? What's the error? Show it. Can you like copy and paste it over here? Is it installation error? मतलब error पढ़ के you might get an idea. If it's an installation error, people, you can do npm install and install it globally and do TypeScript. Right? TSC command not found. Yeah, that's because your TypeScript is not installed. To quickly install it. And globally install karna so that the TypeScript is not just for this folder, it's for like entire system. Quickly. And uske baad let me know if you can type it or not. Anyone uses Linux here? For those guys, command will be a bit different. You'll have to do like sudo and then this exact thing will work. Right? But pehle you'll have to do this. Now working? All right, fine. So uske baad, once you have created something like this, what you can do, you can run this file, right? It will say tsc and then the file's name. So it's app.ts. Now if I press enter, an error is there. Type number is not assignable to type string. Yes. So let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's fix the error. Right now, if I clear it, now this is like equivalent to node index.js जो हम करते थे. Right? When we install globally, does package install with Node.js folder? I mean, I'm not sure if it installs exactly with Node.js folder, but it will install globally so you can access it everywhere. Right. Yeah. CTSC, let's run it again. Any errors this time? No error. But now, if you open your tab, do we find an extra file that we haven't created? Yes, it creates by default another file which is your app.js. If you click over it, is it like your original JavaScript code that you write? Right? So basically, again, this is what you write or gonna write in like your development servers, and it is gonna convert it into a production level file, and you'll attach that file over here. So app.js you can do, right? And this will work with respect to TS file, whatever you do over it. See, now again, for this compiling. For React, you won't have to do it again and again. But again, we are learning just syntax. So for currently, if you do like create some changes, right? Let's say I go and create let num phone, right, equals to some random number, like not characters, number, right? And then if I do phone equals to hello, right? So again, if I go back in app.js, that thing is not updated, right? It is not updated. So if I come back over here, I'll have to first run it to update it, right? So I'll have to run this file ताकि वो जाके यहाँ पे update हो, right? And even though currently this TSC file had an error, right? The TypeScript file had an error. This still for JavaScript, was it valid syntax? ये valid syntax था for JavaScript, valid syntax है. Can we convert our JS code into TS? But why would you want to do that? You can't do it directly, right? Why you won't be able to do it? I guessed you guys will make sense of it your own side. But इस तरीके से सोचो कि JavaScript को TypeScript में convert करने के लिए, right? Let's just think about this कि how JavaScript and TypeScript are different. TypeScript में you have to define certain type, right? यहाँ पे none, ठीक. तो if you have defined a variable with a certain type where num, right, let's say कि मैंने बोल दिया कि this is going to be a number equals to 10. So if this has to be converted in JS, this won't be a big deal. It will just go and define num equals to 10, right? But let's say कि हम JS से TS के conversion की बात कर रहे हैं. We have defined a variable that name equals to str, and उसके बाद we have reassigned this name with 10, right? तो अभी in sense कि let's say if there was a possibility कि we could have done JS to TS, so in this case how will TS understand कि you want to go with string or you want to go with number? That won't make sense, right? वो चीज sense नहीं बनाएगी. That's why. That's why. ठीक है? All right. So I mean there are few more things. Once I like tell you guys about that, you'll get an idea कि why you should not do that. ठीक है? But again, this can be artists, like you'll have to type and then you'll have to type tsc app.tsx and then everything will get converted, right? There's a small thing what you can do. You can just go and write tsc, right? And this will like by default start changing everything. Okay, but for now we don't have to think about all that abhi ke liye, because again going forward we are just going to do everything here, but while installing, right? Remember, while we are installing with we go with JavaScript, right? Next time onwards we can go with TypeScript. So everything will happen automatically, so you don't have to worry about it that much, right? But currently in TypeScript, this is not exactly how we define a variable, right? Like statically typed language, when we define a variable, let's say we are defining let's say count, right? And this count is supposed to be 10. तो अभी मैं क्या करूंगा, as soon as I start defining this variable, I'll let it know by doing this what data type are you gonna be going forward, right? So I'll define the name of variable, I'll attach a colon, and उसके बाद I'll mention कि what the data type is gonna be. Once this is done, right, going forward you can't reassign any other stuff other than that. You'll get an error over here. Clear? So it's like more declarative way of writing it. Okay, so can you guys do a small thing? Create a flag variable and create a greet variable, right? Flag variable में can you guess what data type is gonna go? Boolean, and greet में string. So make sure you guys are creating your TS file. उसमें define these two variables and put it in chat, and I'll see if that is correct. Correct, shake, correct. What about others, guys? Quickly, quickly. It's not a big thing. Aman, correct? Vikram, correct? Okay. So all you have to do is you have to define a flag. You'll mention what's the data type. It's Boolean, and then you define what's it gonna be, right? Let's say one. Now is one Boolean? No, so we'll get an empty. Then let's say we're gonna keep it as false. Then we can have let, and this will be greet, and this will be a string. This will be hello, right? Again, if I go and run tsc with app.ts, you'll see if I go back again over here, right? I'll get everything in the original JS format. Clear? Clear? Okay, fine. Now that we know okay how variables are defined, what else can be considered as variable in JavaScript? Because we have seen a lot of stuff जिनको वेरिएबल की तरह या तो असाइन कर सकते हैं या कंसिडर कर सकते हैं. So again, think about it. Think your old JavaScript days and tell me what can be considered as variables. Like variables will be variables, that's fine. What else? To get it started, a function can be assigned as variable, object, right? उस तरीके से सोचो. ठीक है, तो let's say function can be assigned as variable. Now inside function, are there any stuff that can be assigned as variables? The parameters, they are like considered as variables only. We get a and b, right? Let's say we get a and b. A and b, by default JavaScript gives them value of a as undefined, right? And then if we give them some value, then that value is applied. Can we say parameters are like expected as variables? Then the return statement. Yes, yes. So now, if you think about defining a function, right? And let's say um, greet birthday, right? And this thing takes name and age over it. So return will be let's say happy birthday, name, return, and the age, right? So this is how we can do it in normal JS, right? But again, now these two guys are gonna be defined as variable, right? And can you see there's this three dot over here? If I hover over it, right? If I hover over it, what does the pop-up says? Parameter name implicitly has an any type. What does this statement means? कि parameter name implicitly has an any type, right? इसका मतलब कि the parameter name जो आपने define कर रखा है ना, उसको हमने implicitly एक type दिया है which is supposed to be any. Now let's see what this any means. So let's say if you have defined a variable now, right? And there you have given the type as any. Now over here, let's say if I do 10, right? It doesn't matter what variable you are gonna give it. You can give it anything. You can give it hello. You can give it flag. In any case, flag me false. In any case, it won't throw an error, right? Because you have kept it as any. So any is something that is or should not be used a lot in TS, right? A lot matlab it should not be used at all, right? Because if you're gonna give a variable the type of any, then what was the point of learning TS? Makes sense? क्योंकि this is what our original JavaScript was doing, right? तो अभी implicitly what TS will do if you haven't defined anything, वो आपको परेशान नहीं करेगा. It will say कि I have defined it as any, but a better type may be inferred from usage. You can learn the second, read the second part of sentence. So basically it says कि you can give it a better type so that we know कि if another type is given, we can throw an error, right? So can you guess कि how we can assign type to these? Guess, Phil. You name and then you give type, right? So name and then you give type. Name and then you give type, right? Now, if I go and call greet birthday, I'll print anything, right? So let's say beam, let's say 20. So it will go and return this statement. But again, can this return be considered as a variable also? And what is that variable returning us? What is that variable returning us? What is function returning? What data type function is returning? Is am I audible? अरे यार, like was the yesterday's recording visible to you guys? I think tomorrow भी यही हुआ था ना? Yesterday the recording stopped. I'm not sure, there might be some internet issue. But were you able to see the entire recording anyways? Only 35 minutes. Yeah, that's something I have to talk about. Right, because maybe there's a possibility that this might also get clipped out. चलिए कोई नहीं. So yeah, where were we? I was basically asking you guys कि you have this function. My screen is visible to you guys, right? ठीक है. So we have defined a function and it's returning something. What's the data type that is stored in line number 35? It's a string. It's a string. It's a string, right? So let's say कि do you think this is something that can be defined also? कि what are you gonna return? A function's gonna return. This you can do that. You can do it after here. We'll mention that this function is gonna return a string. So any errors over here, everything's fine, right? The parameters have been defined with a specific type, and the return statement has been given a type of string. Let's say I made it Boolean. Then in this case, are we getting an error? What is it? The return statement says type string is not assignable to type Boolean, right? So over here, this is how you can mention what type you are expecting from a function. So can you see how much control over type we have going forward? We can have at least, right? So this is how we can do it. Now I have a small question for you guys. But before that, is this clear? Function, variable, defining static types to it. Any doubts with respect to it? No? Okay. So again, a small question. Let's say if I ask you to calculate the area of a rectangle in a function, right? And return the values and return the values. Currently, यही करो. So yeah. If you don't provide return type, it will return any exactly. So again, very good guess. Basically, if I don't put any like static or like explicitly define a type, what will be the type that this function will expect? Any. right? वो बोलेगा कि any can be expected. So yeah, over here if I do any, that will be expected, but currently we are just expecting a string. All right, people, quickly, here's the 38 line problem. Just give me a second, folks. एक second देना. But my screen is visible again. Right, so we have some answers, length and width, and we'll define a number. And okay, correct, Vikram. Width, and this will expect a number. Rutvik, correct. What about others, guys? Is it so hard getting an area from a function? Yes, guys. Area from a function, people. Yeah. I and B, and this is expecting a number. A number equals to 0, and then check. That's fine. It's fine. Shashi, correct? Arvi, correct? Everest, correct? Manish, correct? ठीक है, ठीक है. So yeah, I hope this is clear. Now we are also clear with what any data type does. I mean, any keyword does. It's not exactly a data type, but what any keyword basically helps you with. That's clear also, right? Shovik, Narayan, correct? ठीक है. Now, can you think of a possibility wherein it's possible that there will be a variable, it might need two different like data types. It might be possible कि उसमें दो different data types assign हो सकते हैं. Can you think of a scenario like that? जिसमें there's a possibility कि yes, more than one data type might go. It's a possibility. Okay. So we have one answer. Password, right? Correct, Ritvik. Object, okay. ठीक है. Anything else? I mean, object यहाँ पे ना whole different thing होगा. I'll show you. Object छोड़ के कुछ और सोचो. I mean, like password. Password can be entirely number, right? Then in that case, you want to store it as number. It can be mixture of numbers and strings. That works. Pan. Pan, is it like entirely number? I'm not sure. Email. Email can't be entirely number. Can it be? I mean, it's not exactly that. You can think of any other data type. Like can Boolean or a number. Yeah, right. We have 1, 0, and then you have true and false. So isn't this like interchangeable? 1 as true and 0 is false, right? So can I say ki switch over here? Maybe we are flipping a switch, 0, 1, maybe it's a true or false case, right? So let's take this example of password, right? So let password. Now in here, if I define it as number, right? So over here, I can just store number. I can't even reassign it a string, right? New password. But there's a possibility that user can do that. So what you can do in case you want two data types over here, two or more even works. So basically you use something which is called union, right? So it's like or operator you mention over here and you say okay, this variable can either store a string or it can store a number. So in this case, you're giving it the autonomy of holding two different data types, right? It's not like any कि कुछ भी hold कर लो. It's specifically mentioning what two data types you can hold. So now, is there any error with respect to this? No. Similarly, you can give as many as you want. So you can give Boolean also. But basically, usually it's used with 2 or at max 3 so that there are no more errors, right? If I go and do password equals to true, that's still fine. Clear? So this has a name, it's called union, right? And you can think it as a or operator. If this works, then that's fine. Or. Take this is clear. This can be applied over here also. So you could have gone and said, ki, yeah, function. Maybe we are gonna return a string. Maybe we might return a number. ये कौन से केस में होगा? In which case this could have been possible. Maybe we could have done something like this. If age is greater than 10, right? So we were doing this. Else what we did, we just returned the age. So in this case, return statements are separate, different. एक time पे we are returning a string, एक time पे we are returning a number. So based on a certain case, there's a possibility you might want to return a different data type. So you can go with this. Clear? Clear? Union makes sense. Union makes sense. Shall we move towards object creation? ठीक है तो चलिए let's create some objects. Let's go over here and let's go with objects. So yeah, let obj tell me something out of which I can create an object quickly. किस चीज पे बनाना है? नेम एज, ठीक है, तो लेट्स से स्टूडेंट, राइट? तो वी कैन हैव अ नेम, राइट? वी कैन हैव अ एज. yes, एज कैन बी डिस्प्यूटेड, सो एज 0 डाल देता हूँ मैं. एंड ऑफ कोर्स यू नीड एन आईडी, right? I can say as one. Now, what do you think can be made static in this object? I mean, is there any issue currently with this structure? कोई issue है क्या इस structure के साथ? No? Any data type? Think about this. Let's say you're creating, again, this is a data structure, right? Object is a data structure. That means कि we are gonna store stuff in it. Now think about it कि you are storing, you have like 3 input box. अब इस हिसाब से सोचो कि how will you create those data? You have 3 input box. Now over here, out of these input box, you are assigning those values, ID, and you're saying name, and you're saying age. इस तरीके से we'll assign these values. We'll take them separately. This is how we do it. Yes? Yes? No? Guys? People? Anything? Take. Now currently, the inputs is taking anything. So they can take string, they can take number, they can take boolean also. कुछ भी जा रहा है. Right? So you'll be creating an object based on this. There's a possibility that someone might add one more property over here like this, student dot email, and you give email student @email.com, right? Put elements internal, whatever it came out, that's fine. But this is a possibility, right? We're already getting an error. What's that error? It says email does not exist on type, ID, name, string, right? तो again we are writing it in TS file. तो by default उसने क्या किया, उसने ये चीज assign करनी चालू कर दी. Now why did that happen? To understand that, you'll have to understand a small thing which is called interface, right? Interface in TS. So you can think of interface as like a mold. Mold समझते हो? ढांचा. Remember constructor functions, factory functions. They were like a mold, right? उस ढांचे में हम कुछ डालते हैं and from there comes out some other stuff. What was the common thing with respect to other stuffs जो कि एक mold से बने थे? Everything had exact same structure. Maybe values are different, but structure was same, right? So in TS, what we do, we define objects with interface, right? So let's say I define it with student over here, right? And मैं जाके इसको क्या बोलता हूँ? It's gonna have three things. It's gonna have an ID, it's gonna have a name, and it's gonna have a department, right? No errors so far. We have something over here which says member ID implicitly has any type, right? That means it's telling us कि ठीक है. तो why is it mentioning कि it implicitly has any type? It says कि we haven't given these things any type currently. What you can say, you can create a mold over here. So IDs usually are in number format. I mean, they are in string, but currently we did one. So let's go with ID as one. Then you'll say कि the number that we are going to expect over here, that is going to be in string format. String format, right? And the department that we are going to give here, what can be it? Let's say age के साथ I didn't wanted to go. Can we have a boolean value over here for flag? Like, can you think of anything over here जिसमें boolean value लगेगी? Is graduated, right? This can be a boolean value, right? So you can mention boolean over here, right? So this is basically you're creating the mold of a certain object. Now using this mold, you can create multiple different students. So we'll say let student one, I'll come to it safely. एक second. We'll say student one and उसको बोलोगे कि what's the like mold of you, right? So in this case, we won't mention कि what we are going to hold over here because we are going to have object and objects have multiple different data types in them. So you create an interface of them and you assign that interface over here. Now you can create an object and this object, like now this object will check if it has everything over here or not, and everything, whatever keys you have created, they have the specific data type on, right? So I'll go and create an ID. Again, currently, let's see the error. It says type object is missing following properties from type student ID name is graduated. Makes sense. We haven't given anything, so it's missing. Let's give them that. So student one, right? Let's say name and let's say student one, right? If I hover over it, what else are we missing? Which property we are missing? Is graduated, right? We'll go over here and we'll mention is graduated, right? And let's say we are keeping it as true. So now everything is fine. Pura structure correct. In case we gave this as 1, so we'll get an error and that error will be it's not assignable to that boolean value. But we might have 1 or 0 as true or false. So in that case, can you guess what can be done? There's a possibility that 1 or 0 can be considered as boolean values. The union and union can be applied over here, right? So I can say कि over here you can expect numbers also, right? So this makes sense. Makes sense कि yeah, that can happen, right? So that pretty much how you can create objects over here. Clear? Clear? There's one more case over here. There's a possibility that you might wanna need few more details. Again, I hope this is clear by now. Whatever properties there are in interface that should be present in the children's. I can call them as children because they are created from this mold only. Yes. So those children objects should have these properties at least. Right? We can reassign is graduated to Boolean. Yeah, that works. So if you do stud1 dot is graduated and इसको जाके मैं true देता हूँ, so it won't show any error, right? But if I do true, then you will get an error, and that error will say true is not assignable to type number or Boolean, right? It's a string. It's altogether different stuff that you're throwing at me. Clear? Clear? What were we talking? Shashi, is this clear? Is this what you were asking? We can reassign is graduated to Boolean, right? So yeah, you can, right? But if you try to do it with string, you will get an error. Okay. Then we were discussing that yeah, this can be considered as parent of this. So it's expected that every property this guy has, the child should have also. Even TypeScript explicitly checks it implicitly. My bad. Check करता है and it will tell you कि if you don't have a property over there, वो mention करेगा कि this guy has is graduated missing. So please add that. Right? Similarly, there's a possibility that some features might be present in some objects and बाकियों में नहीं होगा. Is that a possibility? Have we seen something like this ever? Yes? No? Guys, your chats have again stopped. So I'll go on frenzy and I'll ask everyone again. So let's not do that. Please, in chat, respond. We have to do that. There's a possibility that there can be some optional properties. Again, optional properties can be a possibility. Yes or no? Yes. So in case you have something like that, you can mention, let's say, is present, right? Let's have is present, right? And in here, we can mention it as a question mark, right? We'll say this is going to be like optional property. And over here, you can mention what that property is going to hold. So let's say I'm going to tell it as Boolean, right? So even though the parent has a specific property, are we getting any error in the student, even though that property is not present over here? No, right? The reason being कि TS is and like TS को हमने बता दिया कि yes, this property might be an optional. It might be present in some student. It might not. So let's say if I go and create another student, let's say student 2, right? And यहाँ पे let's update the IDs real quick. Let's update the IDs real quick. Yeah, it's used for optional. And यहाँ पे we can go and attach is present over here, right? So you can mention it as true. Right? So in both cases, we have a few properties that are kind of extra, but still no error in any of these two cases. Clear? Object creation makes sense? Everyone? Object creation makes sense? Okay? Again, I have a small question for you guys. Question mark make it possible? Yes. This basically tells that yeah, this property is going to be optional. Yes, if you remove this, then student 1 will get an error that it doesn't has his present property. If you just go and attach it, this will be fine. Clear? So again, a small task for you guys. Create an address object. Right? Now address object can have क्या हो सकता है? It can have city, right? It can have pin code, right? तो एक string, एक number हो गया. What else can it have? Address में क्या होगा? State, right? And one optional property that can be landmark, right? Landmark, this can be optional, right? To create an object with these properties, create an instance of it and paste it in chat. I'll see. Right, guys, 3 more minutes. So by 41, I want everyone to be done with this. Right, Shavik, correct. Good. Ritvik, correct. Good. She correct. You have to create a function, no, just object. I mean, if you want to create function, you can. Press correct. Are we correct? I'm correct. Manish, correct. All right. What about others, guys? Are we done? People done? Okay. Aditya, correct. All right. Okay. Chale. So now Now that we are done with object, is there any other data structure that we need for storing data? Is it correct? Any other data structure that we have seen ever? Array, array में भी data store करते हैं, right? So let array equals to something, right? This was how we defined array, right? Now JavaScript में what's the good thing with respect to array? You can quite literally store anything over there, anything together. str1, str2, true, false. But again, is it a good practice in case we are going for static typing? Is this a good practice? Right? Not fixed value of array. So currently, array क्या करेगा? It's gonna take the data type as any, right? Or whatever variable or value that you define over here, right? But if you want to create a static array which only accepts a specific thing, so how, any guesses how you could have defined it? It's a array and this has to be like static array. Yes. And then let's say I just want numbers in it. So should I write number? Yes. And go on and define arrays. Yes, we have getting an error. So basically, just a small change. Whenever you define a type with an array, you attach a square bracket with it. So this lets this variable know that we are going to store a number array over here. Clear? Similarly, if you want to store like a Boolean array, so you can go with B array, right? And even say, I'm going to hold Booleans over here, right? So you can hold true, false, true, 1, and 0. So as soon as I've typed it, I'm getting an error. These things are not acceptable, right? So what if I'm going to store or two different data types in a array? How can I achieve that? Any idea? Union, okay. How will that be applied? How will that be applied? Boolean number makes sense, So let's say I have mixed type. Take mixed typed array. And over here, I want Boolean array both. So I'll go with Boolean, right? And I'll make a union and I'll say I want number over here also. Makes sense? Makes sense. And I'll go and I'll store 1, 2, 3, right? And I'll store true and false. Makes sense? Makes sense. But there's an error. Let's see. It says type number Boolean is not. So basically, it kind of is a type error only. So this is not the most optimized way of writing this, right? Rather than this, again, you tell me which will make more sense. First we define the type and then we mention this thing, right? So if you want to do union over here, will it make sense if I create, let's say this, I create a round bracket and I'll mention type 1 and then I mention type 2. And then I provide an array. This basically says ki, haan, these are the types that are going to be present in array. This will make more sense, right? So basically that only happens, right? Over here, what you do, you basically put everything, like you can put it in this. Now, abhi kya hoga? You are telling it ki we are going to store these things inside this array. So now it won't throw an error with respect to that. But if I go and provide a string over here, right? Hello world, it will throw an error. And to fix that, what I can do, I can provide a string over here, right? And if I don't want to think about it, मुझे सब कुछ save करना है, तो in that case, what I can do, I can just go and give it any, right? So yeah, that works. All right, but again, any shouldn't be used alone. Clear? Any doubts with respect to array? नहीं? नहीं, if object, हाँ, now you're talking. So let's say, guys, I have array and उसके अंदर I want to store objects. Now what? Think in terms of the minute thing जो आपने सीखा है, the very small thing that you learned, उस terms में सीखो, सोचो कि arrays of object कैसे बने. Very first, just think कि how will you create a object, and उसके बाद think about putting that object in it. Think about it. Any guesses? Any idea? पहले तो let's decide upon कि store क्या करना है. So again, let's go with that student data, right? This will be the object, and the array will be basically classroom, right? That we can say. Abhi, think about it. How you can store all this data. अच्छा, idea लग रहा है नहीं लग रहा है? 1 or 0 quickly in chat, because I'm not sure you guys are working on it or you guys are just silent. नहीं लग रहा है. ठीक है, ठीक है, चलो फिर बात करते हैं यहाँ पे. दिस इज एन एरे. इफ यू आर स्टोरिंग समथिंग ओवर हियर, यू विल हैव टू मेंशन द टाइप ओवर हियर. क्या डेटा टाइप है उसका? दैट्स क्लियर. क्रिएटिंग एन एरे इज क्लियर. एवरीवन गाइस प्लीज फोकस अप हियर, यहाँ पे ध्यान दीजिए. राइट, ठीक है. If you define a variable, right, let's say you are defining a add variable, right, then you have to provide a number over here, right, and then you can say 1 plus 2. Yes, this is how you define a variable. Can I define an object like this? No, right, because object is going to hold multiple different data types, right? So for objects, what's the case? How do we create an object? Interface. First define the interface, 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 right? And we mention student, right? And this student will have ID, let's say number. Similarly, the student have name, let's say student 1, right? I think, yeah, that is already there. Okay, this is how we create an interface, right? This should be straight. Clear? What's the error? Why are we getting an error over here? Equals to, it should not be here. Okay. Now we have created an interface. How will I create object from this interface? How will I create objects from this interface? I'll do let student 1, and then I'll mention this interface, and then I'll create an object out of it. ID 1, stud 1, right? This makes sense? This thing makes sense? Yes, no? Take, if you have let a number, right, equals to 1, if you have let b number equals to 2, if you have let c number equals to 3. Now these are all numbers, right? ABC error क्यों दे रहा है? अरे चलो, that's fine. This is fine. Variables. Now if I want to store these variables in an array, again you can think of this number as parents only. Like this interface is a parent of this object, right? तो object भी इसी तरीके से create कर रहे हैं. If I want to create array of this numbers, what will I do? Let array, or let's say num array equals to, first I have to define the data type that is going to be stored in this array. So what's that? What's that? Number, and I mention this, and then I store all this A, B, and C. This works. Similarly, how can I create a relation between multiple objects? Let's say I have multiple objects. I have student 3. So I have a 2. I have a 3. 2, 2, 2, 3. Now, create relations. People, कैसे होगा? The parent is defined. The parent is implicitly defined. हमने बस explicitly we defined the parent. Here implicitly it was defined. If the parent is gonna be same, we mention it here. So does it make sense कि if I want to create a classroom, I'll have to mention the student interface and then the array. And then over here I can do student 1, I can do student 2, I can do student 3. This makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. This is exactly how you create arrays of objects. Clear? Clear? So again, start creating analogy between things because you already know JavaScript. Now you know the basics of TS, how you can create stuff, right? So start mixing things and you will get the output. Clear? All right. Any doubts with respect to this, people? Any doubts with respect to this? No? ठीक है, तो let's have a break and उसके बाद we'll discuss few more things. ठीक है? Here student is object. Here student is a interface. Basically, you can say it as object, but I would rather say it as like a parent of object or क्या बोल रहे थे mold of object, right? But yeah, you can consider it as an object. That's fine. Clear? Because do you have anything like interface in JS? Interface नाम का कोई कीवर्ड है JS में? No. तो if I do tsc app.ts JS फाइल में क्या आपको लगता है कि we're gonna have this interface over there? Do you think we're gonna have that interface over there? No, right? So it won't be there because it's not JS का syntax. It's TS ने बनाया. It's makeshift. Clear? But everything is being stored as they are supposed to be, right? So yes. ठीक है, guys. Have a break. Have a break of 5 minutes. Everyone be back by 1. Right? All right, everyone back. Guys, everyone back. Got 1 minute extra break. I got carried away. मैं पानी पीने चला गया. ठीक है, चलिए. So far, whatever we have done, any doubt with respect to that? Everything's clear, right? So far, any thoughts with respect to TypeScript? Easy है? Easy है. So this is basically what we are gonna do. Nothing much. TypeScript बस यही है और कुछ नहीं है. There isn't gonna some new thing come up now. Whatever you have done, you're just gonna create connections with them. That's it. Clear? एक छोटी सी चीज और है. Just like interface. Remember interface? Right? TypeScript will be asked in interviews again. Which interviews? AI interviewer? Yes, because it's covered in the sprint. And if you're asking about like the real world interviews, right? Actual ones. So actually TS is preferred over JavaScript, right? Mostly when you go there, if you get a question, right? If you get a problem statement, with respect to React, उधर छोटा सा एक mention होगा और with respect to JavaScript itself, there will be a mention कि like TS people will be preferred, right? So those who can do a stuff, whatever you can do in JavaScript in TS also, they will be preferred over there. Okay, so make sure कि again, just this basic, nothing else. If you know how to create variables, if you know how to define functions, how to define objects, how to define array, that's it. Nothing else will be different. Iterations, map, filter, like prototype inheritance, constructors, everything else will be same, right? It's just the fundamentals that will be a bit tight, nothing else. But it is not used in production. So why it is preferred? Because it's used in development. अभी के लिए TS doesn't make sense for us, right? We can write that thing in JS and I'll say कि yeah, my project is small. I have like just 5 folders. I'll just remember कि मुझे कौन सा variable डालना है, कौन सा नहीं डालना है. But think about the big teams that are working on. There are projects जिसमें there's one project and around 250 people are working on it. Right? So in that case, don't you think there will be a possibility that 10 people will be working on a like program which will be used by other 10 or 15 people also in that team? Yes. Yes. Let's say if you are in a team who's writing Redux, right? You're writing the entire Redux for that application. So that Redux part will be used by other teammates also, right? So in that case, they don't send some random stuff in Redux in payload. You define कि हाँ, this payload is just taking number, this payload is just taking an object, this payload is just taking an interface, it's just taking an array. So if you mention it initially, in that case, other teammates को by default पता लग जाएगा कि what they have to send. They won't have to open the file, right? So yeah, that's why development pay TS is used, because mostly code bases are written in TS only. I mean, even if you go and check current React environment, right? अभी का React you go and check, right? React में React, right? If you go check their own repo, right? यहाँ पे like the React, if I go and check the contribution based on language, तो इधर भी 64% is JavaScript. Right? Then there's 20% of TypeScript. So even React is written in TypeScript. Take, then there's some C hash also. Okay? There's like in production environment, it's being used. Yes. Take, is there any tool to convert? But why would you want to do that? To convert a JS code into TS? I mean, of course, there will be. There's a possibility. Yes, they can take last value and they can assign it as like variable. But why would you need this? If you know, if you have at least understood कि whatever we have done so far, you will be fine with TS. कुछ नया नहीं आने वाला. ठीक है? Alright. So, yeah. So interface, we know what interface is, right? There's one more thing which is called type, which is gonna act exact similar to an interface only, right? So we had this thing, we had this thing. right? I'll paste it over here and I'll uncomment it, right? So now this, do you have anything else? I do not. Yes. So now these variables, log scope, अच्छा चलो, that's my kind of unnecessary error. Okay. So if I go back here, if I've defined something with interface, you can define it with type also, right? This is fine. This won't throw an error. Let's define them again. Let's say obj1 equals to an ID, and that is gonna be 1. Let us say name something, right? Then you can go and define that obj2 equals to something and define the ID, and you can define the name as something, right? So this works with respect to types also, right? But type में क्या होता है? Like interface, you just go with this, right? In type, you'll have to explicitly mention equals, right? So this is how type is defined. Now, if interface and type are almost similar with respect to equals to, then why do we need it? There's an important stuff which is called intersection over here. Intersection, that is intersection that is supported by type, but it is not supported by interface. Right? So I would let you guys try type once, but try type out and let me know कि so far with respect to whatever we have learned with interface, including the optional feature, is that all working with type or not? एक बार type quickly try it out and let me know if the optional features and all are working or not on it or not. Quickly. Did anyone try it? Okay, works, working. Anyone else? Only 2 people have done so far. Amazing question, it works. Okay, try something else. Just give me a second. Yeah. Does it works with union? Can you apply union over here? Try it out. Notice question mark. Will it work with union? Try that out. If type in into, we'll discuss about that. अभी के लिए try it out. Is unions and all are working? Can you do this? Is this working? right? Try a function out. Try storing a function. Like objects can have functions in them, right? We call them methods. Methods. Try storing that one out. Methods, did you waste, right? Let's say I have a function over here, right? Add function, basic function. And I want to apply it over here. How can I do that? Let's say it returns 1. Can I add directly? Ripple. Again, are you guys trying? Please write one in chat if you're like maybe writing the code. Because there's a silence, so I'm not sure. Okay. Try putting function over there. Function works. शौविक उस तरीके से फंक्शन काम कर रहा है. एरर तो नहीं है. ओके ठीक है. ट्राई कंपाइलिंग इट सी इन जेएस. ठीक है. तो लेट्स से इफ आई गो ओवर हियर एंड आई मेंशन कि दिस ऐड इज एन function. So here I'll have to mention what we are gonna get in return from it. Let's say I mention number. This is fine. This is fine. Yes. Yes. But are we getting any error over here with respect to it? Respect to it. No. Okay. Let's define interface. So interface में let's have animal interface, right? And over here let's define ID, number, and then we define add, and then we define it's gonna get number in return. So now if I go and create let in obj1 equals to id 1, and that's it, right? So methods can be expected or not expected based on how they are defined, right? But are we sure कि ये add वो कहाँ add कर रहा है? Because you can consider it as a constructor function interface को. So if I do a console.log of in obj1 dot add and call it, am I getting an error? Right? So basically it's expecting कि आपके पास एक add function होगा which you are going to define here, and then in that you can define the function that you want. Clear? Clear? Why did I mention that? Because we are going to move towards prototypical inheritance with respect to this, right? So here you define a function by this. This is just a key, and you'll mention that this is going to store. Let's say if I want to store a function, I don't have to refer as number, I'll refer it as a void, right? Okay, I'm storing a method over here. And then you can go on and attach a method over here, which will be named as add, and you can keep on doing that, right? But again, if type and interface are working exact similar so far, the difference is that with respect to interface, you can use a keyword which is called extends, right? Interface के साथ, with interface, you can use extends keyword, but not with type. Now, what does this extends does? Extends keywords क्या करते हैं? Hey, remember extends keyword. Okay. Inherit करवाता है, right? Can you show console how to check our answer in TS? Basically, you will just compile it and you can console app.js, right? तो index.html में you have attached app.js, right? तो आप browser का first do tsc app.ts and then this will be compiled and then you can see the output in browser only. ठीक है, but before that make sure you are compiling it. हाँ, ठीक है. Guys, वापस आओ इधर extends पे आओ. So remember parent to child, it was like giving some data over there, right? So let's say if I go and define an interface as animal, right? Animal, and over here I define like something over here, let's say name, and this is gonna be string, and और क्या रख सकते हैं? Has feather or has wings, right? Has wings, and this can be boolean, right? So now from here you can create another object from it, right? By writing interface, and I'll say okay, I'm creating, let's say, a cat, right? But this cat extends from animal, right? So any idea what might this mean? Any idea what might this mean? Let's say यहाँ पे मैं ऐड कर देता हूँ ये is nocturnal and इसको boolean कर देता हूँ, right? Nocturnal basically means कि do they sleep in night or not, right? So if they are is nocturnal is true, that means they are awake at night. False है तो they are asleep. तो अभी if I go and create this cat, let's say cat 1, do you think कि if I give it a name I'll get an error? Because if I define it like this is nocturnal and इसको मैं बोलता हूँ true, so this is fine, this is valid object syntax. We'll have to mention कि what interface we are using. तो कौन सा interface use कर रहे हैं? cat, that means we can use is nocturnal, but in this cat interface we have is nocturnal only, so why are we getting an error? If I remove this extends, right, अगर मैं extends remove कर दूं, so in this case we are not getting any error. But if I keep that extent, I'm getting an error, and that error basically says, what does it say? Are we missing name and has wings property? Right? Again, right? So where even though without mentioning it, it attached those parent property to it. So now you'll have to define name as, let's say, a cat name, and you can mention the has wings as false, right? So now you will create a cat from it, because there's a possibility that we have a structure and from that structure we want to create small mini structures, right? Because मान लो this is not just for cat, this is for like, this was for mammals, right? Mammals. ठीक, तो यहाँ पे I could have attached mammals over here, right? Then I had to create one more interface, right? Aves, extends, and it extends from animal because they're gonna have these properties, name and everything they're gonna have. What is some specific property with respect to birds? Mm, we can have this, right? And this can be booleans, right? Do they walk on 2 feet? So if they have feather, they do walk on 2 feet. So we can have, let's say, bird one, and this will be from Aves. So now what properties are we considering over here? Let's say यहाँ पे we have क्या रखें यहाँ पे, yeah, what do we call that when they travel from like one country to another? I think it's called like migration, but there is a specific name to it, right? Anyways, we can say कि migration month, मतलब किस month में they migrate, right? So we are expecting a string over here, right? So we'll have to mention not just bipedal, it's true, and migration month as let's say March. सिर्फ यही नहीं, we'll have to mention the animal properties also, right? We'll have to mention, again, it's not necessary you're following that. You can have name as and you can have like has wings, and this can be true. Clear? So you can even divide it into small subsections. You can have a overall structure which is going to be similar everywhere, and then you can create small substructure interfaces and usko aap assign kar dete ho. Now this property isn't present exactly in types, right? So type में ये property present नहीं है. That's why again it's based on what you want to use. You can use type, you can use interface wherever use case comes. Works as similar super, yes, we'll see that वो भी देखेंगे. In line number 202, yes, if we do not create name, it will give error. Yes, yes, if you don't put name over here, right? So error will pop up which says property name is missing, right? Because this Aves was extended from animal. Clear है? Clear है? This is clear, people? All right. एक छोटा सा आपके लिए task है, very small task. Create a vehicle superclass. Create a vehicle interface, right? From this interface derive two small interface, right? Sub interfaces, again this is not a like technical term, I'm just using it just for reference. Sub interface, एक interface रखेंगे name two big companies, एक रखते हैं टाटा and एक we can keep it as BMW, ठीक है, महिंद्रा, right? And from these interfaces you can create child objects based on specific cars, right? The structure clear है. You'll have a vehicle like top level parent. From that parent, two substructures will be defined: a Tata ka car and a Mahindra ka car. And from these molds, separate child objects will be created. To quickly create this, you can create just one object. One object works. Quickly try it out, people. You have 5 entire minutes for this. So by 30, I'm expecting everyone to be done. In bird one, how to skip any property that inherit from other interface without error. Do we have a optional property? Right? तो जो property आपको share नहीं करनी, you can make it optional. Right? Let's say कि this has wings, I want to keep it as optional. तो मैं क्या करूँगा, इसको बोल दूंगा this is going to be optional. So if someone does not has it, you can just skip it. That's fine. Okay, extends vehicle and name. ठीक है, ऋत्विक correct, very good. Ayush correct, good. Is value correct, Shopik correct, good. One moment, people, quickly. ठीक है, चलिए guys, I hope you're able to do that. All right, now let's move forward. So that was one difference. Basically, we can say that was one advantage that interface had. You can do something like extends over there that type can't, right? But type के पास एक छोटी सी property है which like kind of represents this also. So let's say we have interface, right? We have an interface. Again, think of two separate interfaces जिसमें there's a possibility that दो keys collapse करेंगे. Let's say student, right? Student interface, and I can have name over here, right? So name I can keep it as string, right? Let's keep it as string, and I can have interface, and I can have a developer, right? And यहाँ पे I can have is study, right? And this can be boolean, right? So we have two separate interface. Yes, those separate interface है. Let's say if you want to combine these two properties together, right? So if you are using type, you can do it like this. Let's say student and developer, what can be a common word for them? uh, क्या बोले उसको? मसाई स्टूडेंट. चलो चलो चलो, इसको स्पेसिफिक नहीं करते, इंजीनियर. चल इसको ये बोलते हैं. So over here you can say we have two things. We have student and we have developer for this specific type, right? So basically this and operator, it's not and operator, it's called intersection, right? So it acts as a and operator only. और वो क्या करेगा? It's gonna take the properties of this interface, it's gonna take properties of another interface, and it's gonna combine, right? So this will be just like this. If we would have done something like this, name as string and is studying as boolean. Something like this can be combined in this format only. So let's say if we are using this type to create an object, let's say obj1, right? And obj1, and this has like engineer over here, and this has like name property, right? So string1, I think बाकी चीजें it's already commented out. Okay. So if I go back here, there's a small error over here, right? If I hover over it, what's that error? Property is studying missing. Study is missing. So let's attach that is studying. And let's give it as, right? So we have created an object with the properties of this and this together, right? So again, it does seems like similar to this. Extends की तरह similar लग रहा है, but aren't they different? Use cases can be different, right? Right? क्योंकि with respect to extends, there is a parent to child relation, right? That means कि whatever property you have, you can attach some extra property in child, and finally वो दोनों को मिला के एक combine object बनेगा. But over here you have separate objects, no relation, and you just combine them and you have all the properties over there, right? So no relations over here. Can I explain intersection again? Yes. So basically you can have two separate interfaces, whatever you have created, and you want both of their property in another type, right? Or maybe, I mean, I can't call them interface, but let's say कि आपको एक interface बनाना है जिसमें दोनों types हो, name and is study. So what you can simply do, if you want to do it in one line, you can define type, you can give it a name, and उसमें you can say कि student is an interface and I have a developer interface, merge them. So now this will be equivalent to this thing that we have done. I created that thing. This. So it's equivalent to this only. Clear? Let's say if I had another interface, let's say coder or something, right? Is coding, and this will be boolean, right? So यहाँ पे if I go and write and coder, right? And then I go and let's say इसको comment out करते हैं. If I go and define let obj1 equals to name as third one, you have like developer, maybe you have a studying, right? And that is true. Still you're getting an still you can attach furthermore, you can say is coding over here, right? But we haven't given it interface, right? Reference nahi diya humne engineer, right? So in this case you'll get an error which will mention you are missing something. You're missing is coding. So you can go and apply is coding over here, right? This will be boolean, let's say false. Clear? So you can keep on attaching as many like those interfaces you want. Clear? So if you want to do intersection, you can go with type. If you want to do extends use करना है, then you can go with interface. Clear? This part is clear. I mean, you have separate options. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि which one is better. It's based on which one you want to use at that particular day at that particular time. Right? इनके अपने अपने use cases हो सकते हैं. They can have same use cases. It's based on you कि what you wanna use. Before engineer type. Yeah, this type is a keyword like interface. Clear है? All good? Right? So now let's move towards class constructor and inheritance based on this. Can you scroll up? Yeah, sure. This is mix of type and interface. Yes. ठीक. So yeah, remember class constructors. Remember class constructors. याद है? याद है? Let's take one of your example only. Let's say if we are defining like a class, right? And इसमें हम mention कर रहे हैं car. So in here, if I want to create a constructor out of it, I have to use a keyword constructor. Constructor keyword. Remember. And here we accept the features. Let's say wheels. और क्या चाहिए? Let's say name. Right? So यहाँ पे you go and define कि this dot wheels, right, equals to wheels, and you define this dot name equals to name. थोड़ा सा different रखते हैं. Let's say C wheels C. So this will mention कि this is constructor function का key, right? And we are assigning them names. This is how we used to do this. Yes? No? Anything? Are we missing something? Can we expect the error that is coming out? That's because of TS. JS के हिसाब से कोई error है? This thing from JS point of view. No? Okay. How do we create a new instance from it? Let car1 equals to instance. How do we create instance? New. Okay. What else? Car and then for and the name, right? So let's say क्या name रखना है? आयन. आयन कोई कार का नाम है? ठीक है, चलो. So this is how we can create in JS, but of course this is TS. The errors are gonna be specific errors. So if I hover over it, what does the error say? Property wheel C does not exist on type car, right? So basically you have to initially define if we are gonna have a wheels C करके property, right? And उसमें आप क्या value store करेंगे? You have to tell them. So what's the value that we are gonna store? Number. We will mention the number over here. Similarly, you have name C, right? So names में क्या store करोगे? String. We'll mention the string over here. Right? Now that error is gone, but there's one more small thing, the three dots. Any guesses why those are there? Any guesses? ये क्यों है? See? नहीं. Again, these are constructor, this keyword कुछ भी दिख कुछ भी रहा हो, it's a function. It's taking arguments, parameters. Parameters are like variables. They have to be given some value. By default क्या है? Any है. Right? Let's say कि wheels को हम बोलते हैं, this can be a string or it can be a number, mind you. Right? Similarly, for name, I can say that this will be a string one. Right? So abhi we're getting an error. Why? कोई आइडिया एरर क्यों आ रहा है? रिटर्न डेटा टाइप नॉट एग्जैक्टली यहाँ पे नहीं चाहिए. रिमूव दिस. ओके, पढ़ो. What does it say? What's the error? We use union. So what? Let's do one thing. Let's put it in bracket. अभी भी आ रहा है? What might be the case? People, error पढ़ो. Error पढ़ो. str not assignable in number. Okay. So are we not providing union over here? Yes. So line number 239 में what are we giving here? So in case you want to make this as like that union, don't you think यहाँ पे भी we'll have to maybe make it string union? No, because if you're declaring clear structures, you'll have to mention it in both cases. Whatever value you are getting and wherever you are gonna place those values. Clear? Clear? So basically, this is how you can create constructor using TS. Nothing different. Everything is exact same as it is used to be. Right? Again, let's say if I want to define a function, let's say I want to define a horn function. तो अभी function को कैसे define करते हैं? With a void, right? And you can have over here, you can say console.log, and what do I want to print? Uh, ठीक है. So now you will be creating a car जिसके prototype में this method will be attached. Now, if we have a class constructor, of course, will we be able to extend it? Will we be able to extend it? How do we extend it? Using super. Using super. Okay, ठीक है. Let's say we have class and यहाँ पे let's pick data and let's extend it. We are extending it from car. ठीक है. So how do I get all the car properties over here? I shall write constructor. These properties जो वो accept कर रहा था वो तो accept होगा. By default, those will be accepted. Plus, let's say we are passing new things. Let's say color. This will be a string, or it can be like it can be RGB, right? So it can be number also. All right. हाँ, अभी क्या करेंगे? Next step, because there is an error. It says constructors for derived class must contain a super call, right? So super, where do we call it? Over here, we'll call super. What do we have to pass in here? क्या क्या pass करना है? Wheels ऊपर दिख रहा है, right? Wheels and name, right? And furthermore, whatever you want to attach, you can attach over here. Equals to color, but you will have to define the extra property. So color C is gonna be a string and or make sense? Make sense? So now in this case, you can say data car1 equals to new, and you can say this will be 4 and कार का नाम बताओ. Okay, and we have color, so we can say make sense. Make sense? Right? So basically, this is how you can define constructor functions. You can extend it and you do it. Everything same except for how you define the variables. Right? So TypeScript is going to revolve around just defining the types. That's it. You might have observed it, right? यहाँ पे basics खत्म हो गया. This is what all you have to know about TS. Now you can start implementing it anywhere you want, right? Because React is mostly functions, components are functions. So when you're accepting an argument, just make sure that those arguments are like type tested. If you're returning something, make sure those are type tested. Yes, and we start doing it. Implement कर सकते हो, right? Tuples, they are not very big of a deal. There's one more small thing which is called tuples, right? कुछ नहीं होता. Let's say if you're creating an array, right? And in this array, you can store multiple different values, right? You can say, ki, again, for this, I would rather use an object, but there's a possibility ki you don't have access to object. Let's assume, right? So you'll say, ki, kitne apples are one, have you eaten it true? You might want to store values in this format. Yes, हो सकता है, possibility है, right? So what you can do, you can just define a tuple over here. So you can say, ki, fruit. And यहाँ पे you can mention you're gonna have an array which is gonna have like a string first, right? Not like this. It's gonna have a string first, then it's gonna have a number. Again, sequence matters over here, and you'll have a boolean over here, right? And उसके बाद you can just go and assign this fruit that particular value, right? This exact value. Let me just copy it. Is that so something like this? But again, मेक सेंस राइट कि इतना यूज नहीं होगा बिकॉज यू कैन सिंपली डू समथिंग लाइक दिस राइट. यहाँ पे जाके यू कुड हैव सेड कि दिस एप्पल इज गोना हैव लाइक कंबाइंड टाइप ऑफ स्ट्रिंग और इट्स गोना हैव नंबर और इट्स गोना हैव boolean. So this also works, no? Yeah, we missed that. This also works, right? But again, one way of doing it, yes. Another way is this. पर यहाँ पे क्या होगा? यहाँ पे sequence will matter, right? It's not as if in line number 265 does sequence matter? No, right? You can keep one over here, right? That's totally fine. You can keep true over here. That's totally fine. You can keep apple over here. That means it just checks that these types are present over here. ये acceptable है, but over here you can't mess up the sequence. You'll have to make sure the sequence are followed. You can't have true and then you can't have like apple over here and you can't have one over here, right? Error will be true. ठीक है, तो you'll have to make sure कि these things are in sequence, right? This will not be that, it will be one, this will be false. Clear? So that's tuples for you. Sequence based arrays. Clear? Clear? So similarly, there's one more thing, enum करके होते हैं. I want you guys to first read about it from your end and then maybe you can discuss it in next lecture. Right? But enums are something very easy, but again, same concept follow करेंगे. Just for now, try it out once. ठीक है? Alright, so any doubts with respect to whatever we have covered so far? Was it easy? Except for defining types for a specific variable. Have we done anything else? बाकी चीजें you can just think logically and it will come out. Right? So that's TypeScript for you. Itna easy. This is the basics. Now you can do anything with TypeScript. That's done. You like now know 60% of it. Clear? Clear? Any doubts? So